Yes, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You're here with us tonight, live Speak Your Mind show, the People's Show. I'm here, and as usual, I have my two guests here with me, Bevan George and Mr. John Lewis. And we're hoping to have a real serious and productive dialogue with the people of the Virgin Islands tonight, all the way from Anegada to Joshua Dyke. We hope to engage you and to dialogue with you. Let's talk about some of the things that are happening in our community, and let us in some way speak to the various points in an effort to shed light on some of the areas. We all come from different backgrounds, and we all have something to contribute to the country. We know that we're in a position in the country now that we have never ever been in before. We have more educated people walking around us now, colleagues, than ever in the history of these islands. So I think if we combine all our efforts, we can definitely do much better than those people who stood before us were able to do. So I'm calling on all our colleagues that are out there as well, muster up some courage, don't be afraid. Call us, tell a friend to tell a friend that the Speak Your Mind show is on, it's live and it's direct. And I'm going to let my colleagues here say good evening so we could get started. Go right ahead, colleagues.
Good night, everyone, and welcome to Speak Your Mind. My name is Bevan George, and we're ready to start a discussion.
Good evening, I am John Lewis, and I will make my contributions to the program tonight, and I hope it allows you to gain some knowledge and have a better understanding of what is or is not happening in our country. Good night.
Okay. Well, I think we can start with some of the discussion that we were having before we came on air about the situation as it is right now with a number of businesses in the Virgin Islands where the whole management of the calling or the let's say the consumer aspect of speaking to the customers is being handled externally outside of the territory, and we're about to shed some light in that area. I would let John talk a little bit about it.
Okay.
We're mindful that businesses are in the business to make a profit. They're also in a business to serve the community in which you live in, and also to do it in a professional way, in an ethical way, and also to be mindful that the person that you serve, they have rights as well. And it's a little disturbing to have to come on air to talk about this topic, because it has been a development for quite some time. At first, we were getting transferred to other Caribbean islands, and then we went even further. We're all the way down in South America now. So yes, ladies and gentlemen, it's a disturbing issue. It's not user-friendly. I don't think it serves anyone's best interest. And, it's not one company that is doing it. It's more than one company that is doing it. And we speak about corporative responsibility, and whether or not some of the companies that are doing business in our country understand what that means, and how they can better develop themselves and their company to better serve the people of the Virgin Islands. Because I think part of being here and profiting from being here has a responsibility to serve the people of these islands and to be responsive to the needs of the people of the Virgin Islands as well. I'll shut up a little bit for a little bit and listen to my colleagues here on the topic.
This topic was brought home to me this past week when I met a friend who was quite irate that she is trying to communicate with someone in the bank, and when she calls the bank's number, it is answered in Jamaica, and the person in Jamaica could not direct her to the person she wanted to talk to, where she's conducting her business. And she was really angry, and she wants to know, why is it that these companies can't establish a call center in the Virgin Islands to deal with their local customers? And all of you folks out there who may have experienced that malady, you have an opportunity to call into the program tonight and let the owners, proprietors, the decision makers of these big companies, and this is true with one bank, and this is also true with Flow. If you called Flow to make a complaint about your service, your call is forwarded to Jamaica, and you're given a number, and you have to be waiting and calling this number in Jamaica sometimes for days before you get the service. I am certain that we would all be happier if you can talk to somebody who knows where Huntam's Gut is, who knows where Sickows Bay is, who knows the next person in the bank, and not having to be told, okay, I'll have to call the bank to get the number to call you. And folks, this really upset that person. And I don't know if you guys have experienced it, but
I have experienced the same problem. I had a problem with the landline, and I spoke to somebody in South America, and then they called the person who is a technician here, who, if I had his cell phone number, I could call him directly myself. It ended up that it was somebody that I knew, and he didn't come the first appointment, and then I called back again 2 times, and then he came. But I think the point is well taken, that if we had a call center, it could also service other businesses.
Other businesses,
here, and
yeah.
it could provide employment
That's
for some
correct.
people here.
That's correct.
We're shipping our jobs away. That's what we're doing.
But I think that's you don't want to say, but that's how these companies moving towards, especially
Conglomerates.
cable and wireless.
Yeah, no,
A lot of the jobs, sooner or later, they might even cut out the cashier. And
They would force us to use credit cards or
Yeah.
I just have
automated,
one preve with the whole automated machine thing, right? A machine supposed to be more efficient than a human being.
Yeah,
Okay?
supposed to be.
So why are we paying more for a machine to do the work that a human being would normally do?
Well, it's just like an airlines. To me, the airline ticket, you go to an airline, you still got to check in yourself. You still got to do everything yourself.
Yes.
And the price ain't coming down. Gas price gone down, but the still ticket them still high. So I guess that's how the world moving, and I don't know. It ain't good to me. It's not good customer service at all.
I remember some months ago when Lime Flow wanted to bill us for receiving our statements on paper.
Yes.
And the decision makers in government raised the issue, and that was discontinued. Perhaps this is another case where these folks should be told by government that there are some things that you could avoid not doing. Because if you're going to create your business in the British Virgin Islands and create jobs in Jamaica or in Panama for someone, why not create the jobs in the British Virgin Islands where you're making your money?
That's a good point.
That's a good point, and that's almost borders on the point about taxation.
Without representation?
No, but when I say taxation, I'm referring specifically to employment tax. if the jobs are not here, if you have a company that is here and the jobs are not here, it means less revenue for the
Yes.
government.
But it's less money you have to pay out as well, so yeah, you got a point.
Okay.
No, they're not
Okay.
paying out less money because they have to pay somebody in Jamaica.
But
maybe
George is saying,
Jamaica,
but
but maybe-
George is saying at a lower rate.
As a lawyer, at a lower rate.
At a lower rate.
So it's like, because their money ain't compatible to us.
That's not the point. The point is the job isn't here.
Well, that's the
And-
point. That's
and
the
that's-
general
yeah,
point
and-
we're making,
and
yes.
the revenue does not get an opportunity to be circulated in our economy.
In our economy. Yeah.
And they're making their revenue here.
And one of the things I try to stress in the show as well is that one of the key most things that our elected representatives, and I'm talking about all 13 of our elected representatives, one of the things, the key things they should be trying their utmost to protect in all the deliberations is jobs, all jobs. Make sure that you secure all jobs for us. And when I say us, I mean U.S. Us. Meaning the people who live
Live here.
And that to me, that's a very difficult thing it seems to me from reading the news and reading the various things that are happening. It seems like this is not the norm. It is something that it poses itself to be very difficult
Well, the
in this
question is,
environment.
what is the fear?
Well,
It seems to me that in other places, somebody in high places will pick up the phone and speak to the general manager and said to him, we've been told that this is happening. Can we have a discussion about it? And try and get a favorable resolution.
yeah. Well, I think we're going to see more development in this area as we continue to change. We are changing a bit. For instance, if you look in the tourism sector, we're talking about year-round tourism. So if we're talking about year-round tourism, we're talking about year-round employment.
Right.
So things are going to have to change.
Perhaps this can create a company opportunity for somebody
Exactly.
to set up a call
To
center
set up a call center.
and go to these folks and say, we can do
We can
the
do
job.
we can do this job that you are exporting.
Exporting.
Yeah, and we can do
and we
it
can do it more effectively, and more efficiently.
and with better customer satisfaction.
That's correct.
Yeah, because efficiency is one thing, but customer satisfaction is another milestone that most reputable organizations strive for.
Richard, this lady was livid. Why do I have to call a local number
Yes.
and have it answered in Jamaica so that I can
And-
talk
and
to
if-
someone locally?
And John, if you take it a step further, and you listen to the telecom reasoning behind it, you would say that call that has to go to Jamaica probably costs more to be able to be that length of time talking to someone in Jamaica, as opposed to it being more efficiently dealt with here by someone who is here.
Even if you're told that because they're looking at economies of scale,
Yes.
doesn't make any sense.
No, I don't think so either. I think
At least you have very irate customers when that happens.
Well, one of the problems we're having still with the telecommunication industry is the fact that we don't have, competition. There's some competition, but there's not as much liberalization as we would have liked to have had. For example, we still only have one landline. We still only have one cable TV provider, and the TRC is yet to put out a document showing across the board what services are being offered by whom and how much it costs. In other words, for you to make an informed decision, you should know without any doubt what the various companies are saying to the TRC because they must get permission from the TRC
Yes.
in order to offer the various services that they're offering.
I know, for example, in the United States Virgin Islands, all telecom companies must submit on an annual basis what their rates are, what their profits are, what their distribution is to the relevant authority.
They do.
But we seem not to want to do it here, or we are afraid to do it. Okay.
Well, you just make me make a note to myself. Freedom of information. We've been toying with the idea of a Freedom of Information Act. I think the governor even made a statement to say that it was something that the government
Should look into it.
was going to look into in the past. I think it was in the past budget, not even this one, the one before.
Yes.
And
It hasn't happened.
we have not seen the draft, right? And I think it's something that could stop a lot of the misguided information and the assumptions that are made about various things. If you have the actual data, if you had a vehicle where you can request information in a timely manner and that information is given, it would be totally different.
Fortunately, that's not all across the board, because I requested some information from the Bureau, the Central Statistics Office
Okay.
on Wednesday,
DPA.
and by Wednesday afternoon I had received it.
Okay.
And the lady with whom I spoke,
Yes.
she was really forthcoming. She provided me with information that allowed me to debunk the rumor that we have a population of 40,000 people.
So much we have.
Well, she claims we don't have 40,000. And I corroborated that with the NHI office, and I was told that the people who registered numbered 31,860, almost 32,000 people.
Okay.
So if I'm going to use the NHI numbers as the barometer for the census, then we only have about 32,000 people in the Virgin Islands.
But we also know that everybody is not registered.
Well, the statistics people claim that they can corroborate the number of people based on the number of work permits they issue. They check with the number of children in schools. And if you take the number of work permit holders and children from that total, you have 19,000 BV Islanders.
That
Just
could be
about.
correct. That should be. That could be correct.
That
I look
could
at
be correct.
the voters list. If you go on the voters list, it's about that roughly that type of
Okay.
figures.
So, Richard, while it may be true that the numbers are great, let's look at a recent happening where a number of people were apprehended on Peter Island and repatriated. Now, if you can collect 15 people in one hall, or 9 people, whatever the number is, just imagine the number who were not caught.
Yeah.
Good evening. You've reached Speak Your Mind. Go right ahead, please. Good evening.
Good evening, gentlemen. I'm here watching your program, and I just want to ask your opinion or your input on a matter in regards to Scotiabank. I'm calling from Virgin Gulf, and some time ago I went into the bank and I was told that if I'm not depositing $3,000 or more, I have to do that deposit at the ATM. Now, my concern is, if you're dealing with the bank, it's always good to have a good relationship with the bank and the customer. And when you telling people if they're not depositing $3,000 or more, they must go to the ATM machine. Remember, you have so many people who are not computer literate. And it's like telling people, we only catering for the rich, or we only catering for the business community. Because there's how many people can be depositing $3,000 or more. And every time you go to the ATM, there's so many people there who are not computer literate. And then somebody from the bank has to go outside and actually show them how to do this. It's the most ridiculous thing that I've ever heard. And it's not. I don't think it's good for good relationship between the bank and the customer. Could you guys just give me your input on that? Thank you very much.
Okay, I hear you loud and clear, and I heard the same story before. So I would have to say that you're only collaborating what I heard before. I think it's not a good policy. I think it speaks to the digital divide that we have in the territory already, where we have persons who can't get services or people who are not as, I don't want to say as literate, but as accustomed to using some computer equipment as some other people are, and they should not be at a disadvantage. I think that's a form of discrimination. But in addition to that, I think that is very, how should I put that, John? That is against good consumer relations if you're going to set unrealistic or well, it might be realistic for the bank because they may have a high turnover in profits, so 3,000 might be a very small number for them. However, I think that they should reconsider the way they treat the customer at the customer level, and that to me seems like a policy that they should reconsider. That's what I was saying.
That is something that actually happened to me.
Okay.
That I go to make a deposit and I'm told.
Hold the thought, yeah. Yeah, good evening. You're speaking mine. Go right ahead, please. Good evening. Sorry we missed you. Please call back. It's a live show, okay? So please call back and we'll take your call. You got a message that came and said, guys, I think you guys are missing the point. The call centers are serving multiple islands. It is not each island having its own. They are actually saving on this. I think you were missing the point, the person that texted that. I'm not saying that they're not saving. We're saying that the savings that they're making does not equal the customer care and customer service that we are demanding that we get here in the Virgin Islands. And we are also saying too that by using a call center in a foreign country is not in our best interest. It might be in the company's best interest, but it's not in the local market best interest. For example, if you don't know where Shulasan is, it might be difficult for you to try to explain to somebody where Shulasan is. And similarly, it has some other local dimensions to it that I think we need to consider. We need to protect our jobs. We need to, the one company have gotten rid of all the operators completely.
Yeah.
And those are jobs that are gone. They're gone somewhere else. And one of the things that I said all 13 representatives should be concerned about is protecting the jobs in the country, making sure that we have jobs.
But Richard, even if what the person is saying is true, why not have a number of businesses come together which require the same service?
Yes.
And
set up a call center and provide employment for some people.
Exactly.
And a service for many. I think out of what we're here talking, somebody might start a business and make some money.
Make a business out of it.
I hope they give me a little 1% out of it. But otherwise than that, to me it makes logical sense to me, right?
But I think the point is, even if you went to the bank and you have less than $3,000, and you're a 70-year-old person and you don't know how to use the technology. That little old man or little old lady feels better knowing that he or she is dealing with someone.
A person.
He or she knows.
A person.
A person.
That's right.
And
getting a receipt.
Yes.
And I don't know. I think that we've lost that touch of it.
But you gotta understand too. That's some people, and they have a representative from the bank there to assist if you don't know how to do it. But let's say I want to make a deposit. It could go both ways. I don't have to wait in the line forever. I just go to the ATM, bam, go on, they got on my account one time, because you don't have to wait anymore.
But that should
Okay.
be an option.
That should be an option. And not only that, I want to ask you a question. What if something goes wrong with that transaction? You know, you actually waste more time than the time you would have saved by just going to the ATM machine.
But
But I have a classic case for you.
Before
Is
you
it-
go,
is that-
let's just read a text that came in though, right? It says Scotiabank gone to the dogs. They don't care about the locals no more. I moved my account
moved your
last month. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I was going to get to that. That's also an option, you know. You can shop around for banking services. You don't have to take what's being dished out to you. You can move your funds, and you can. An old trick one of my New York professors taught me is that what could get a bank more upset than if you have a couple dollars in the bank and you go one day and you tell them you want all your money, and then when they get it all prepared and they call the bring truck and everything, you tell them you change your mind. No, you're laughing, but we know that the banks don't have the ways with the money like the city do. Okay, from the time you put your money in the bank, they lend it to John Doe,
Yes.
and they make money out of it.
Yes.
So if you ever ask them for your money, they don't have it, because they already lend it. Okay, so we could play the same games that they're playing. You know?
But there's no need to be playing games.
No, we shouldn't be playing games. We should be trying to treat each other in a fair and equitable way. And that is not happening. And
some of
I
these-
understand the text of the person that sent that last text. They're frustrated and they're looking for a solution. So what they did is they take the money from the one bank and they put it in
in the
another
next
one.
bank.
Yeah.
well, we have
And
that.
you might get better. You might get
That-
better
that's an
service.
option, yeah.
That's an option we have.
That's a viable option.
Yeah.
Right? And they continue to change and demand more from the consumer. I mean, I don't know how many of you know, but you have to, from time to time, update your information, give them your new phone number, your new email address,
Yes.
your social security
Security.
number, etc., etc. This is an ongoing thing that the banks are requesting of everybody.
Well, I guess they're trying to keep you safe, though. You got a
No.
lot of fraud going on.
All right. Well,
I ain't gonna
ladies,
get you convinced, you know. Anyway.
ladies and gentlemen, we will take a break, and when we come back, we will deal with other topics.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we are back with you after a short break. We were having some live discussion here about doing business in the Virgin Islands, the banking industry in particular. And we also know that in the Caribbean area, it was reported in the news here on JTV Live that bank fees increases in the region. It says the Sinkis-based Eastern Caribbean Bank has expressed concern at the increase in commercial bank fees and charges across the Eastern Caribbean and the effects on depositors. The same issues we're talking about here, ladies and gentlemen, it's also happening in the rest of the Caribbean. The ECCB serves as a central bank for Antigua, Barbuda, Dominica, Grenada, St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, St. Kitts, Nevis, Montserrat, and Anguilla. The bank does not have the powers to regulate commercial banks' fees and charges. These commercial banks come into our territories and our regions, and they basically do what they feel like doing. They have a high-handed attitude. They pretty much make policy, and you either take it or leave it. Many customers have openly complained that the fees were introduced without any discussion, and as a result, they were taking out their funds from the bank. A similar situation is also being experienced in St. Kitts Nevis, where the bank is operating. The ECCB said commercial banks should explain to their customers and the public their rationale for the increase in fees and charges. RBC Royal Bank is one of the world's largest banks and has been operating in the Caribbean for over 100 years. It said the fee charges include the establishment of new age-based accounts to encourage savings among young people and seniors. The Monetary Council of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank is currently reviewing commercial bank fees and charges. That's something that would affect the other parts of the Caribbean, but it wouldn't affect us because we don't have that type of regulation in our territory as it is right now. We have subscribed to the idea that we're in the free market. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we are in the free market, and we have encouraged banks to come here and operate in the territory at their conditions. Maybe it's time that we rethink or take a second look at that policy, and get some courage. I'm using that word more than one time tonight, colleagues, because sometimes it takes courage to do things. It's not what's popular. Sometimes you have to find that courage within yourself in order to move forward.
You're right.
And I think anything to do with banking and business affects all of us. It affects the government. It affects each and every one of us. We either have car loans, or we have house loans, mortgages. We loan money to go on vacation. We save our money from time to time, etc., etc. So it affects all of us.
Okay. I think we've exhausted.
We're down to that?
Yes.
Okay. The hurricane season is upon us. It's coming on, and it's right around the corner. There's something developing in the air right now as we speak, I think.
Yes, that's going north of us.
And one of the things that we usually stress at this time is the preparedness. How are we being prepared? Have we budgeted to do the necessary things, clean the drains, and the passageways where water usually pass to go to the sea? Are we taking care of those things that are already in place? I'm talking about the culverts and the various drains along the highway, etc. It should be an ongoing maintenance program.
Yes.
That looks at these things and manage them to the point where they're able to function if and when we get torrential rains and they're required to function in a particular way. So I have to say we are encouraging the known various departments and individuals who usually step forward and deal with this issue to do so at this time, because this is a good proactive time to plan.
That's correct.
To plan and get it done, right? One of the things we would discourage, though, is the wholesale going in guts and rerouting the water course
and taking out all the vegetation.
Destroying. You saying taking out and destroying, especially. I don't know if you're aware, but there is legislation where you can't remove a tree like 8 inches in diameter and above.
Yes.
And we have to be mindful that some of these things we have to be mindful that we go back to them or revisit them to ensure that we're doing the right thing.
But are we doing the right thing when we go into the guts and just clean them, just take all the vegetation out, so that should there be another rain, you find the water nice and brown?
The sedimentation.
I think it's a bad policy, because we deprive our water table of receiving any water because the vegetation traps the water, makes it go into the ground. We don't get a lot of silt. Our coral reefs are not damaged.
The runoff runs off.
Yeah, and
it
we
ru-
should
it
stop
runs off.
it.
We should-
I think what we should do, Courtney, is to encourage our government, instead of paying people to go in there with machines, yes, if we need to create employment, that's fine, but do it in an environmentally safe, sound manner. All we need to be doing is removing the debris and other solid waste. Leave the grass alone, leave the trees alone, because they serve a useful purpose.
They trap the silt.
And when we talk about dry season, you'll find that all dry seasons are worsened because there's no water in the soil.
That's true.
And I think I understand why they do it, but it is a bad policy, and perhaps we need to become more environmentally savvy.
Yes, that's true. I agree with you. Well, a text that came in, I said, due to unpleasant conditions at my workplace, no running water for 6 years, I was forced to stop working. However, my permit is expired. I'm renewing my permit with my boss of 17 years. He is ignoring me. Where do I go? I want to travel. I was told by immigration officials that I cannot get time unless my permit is in labor. I need enlightenment in this matter, please. Seems like a very complicated issue. I think it has to do, it probably has to do with the new requirements for immigration, that if you're residing in a territory for more than 5 years, then I think you can stay in the country and seek other employment without having to leave and come back. So I think this person may fall in that category.
Yeah,
However,
yeah.
he still have some other challenges, or he or she still have some other challenges as it relates to having someone sponsoring him, so to speak.
It seems ironic to me that if you're living in a place for that many years without water, and you stay in that condition,
Yeah, something.
that doesn't.
I think that maybe they mean 6 months or something. Or I don't know. Can't be
That,
6
he
years.
said 6 years.
He said 6 years.
You'd be surprised that people here. I've known of some of my colleagues who have been here for a long time and in the same conditions that they have been in from time they came. So
No water.
no, well, I mean I meant employment.
But I
not
mean,
the
they
water
say
situation, that's a
they have no
different-
water for
yeah,
6
yeah,
years.
Years.
yeah. Well, in some places, water is a challenge. In some workplaces, still.
Yes, but
That's
why
bad.
are you going to stay in that situation for 6 years? And what makes it worse now is that it affects your job, and you're still in there.
So, what is your?
My suggestion is
what
that
is your
that
suggestion,
person needs counseling, and he needs to talk to the people at labor, because it is not sanitary for
the
him.
working conditions are not.
Yeah,
are not,
that's bad
are not-
working conditions.
yeah. You should have proper working conditions for
Conditions.
for employees. That's true. Okay, another text that came in says, Scotia charge you if you use the teller. The machine is free. Oh wow.
Yeah,
You know about that?
Yeah.
The machine free, but
No,
if you use the
you're
teller,
not supposed. If you go to the teller,
yes.
they can charge you a fee.
Okay.
But they send you a letter stating all this. So if you didn't want to stay with
If you
Scotia
don't,
at
want,
that
move
time,
your, if you
could
don't
have-
want to move your money out of the bank, you have to pay the
You
fee.
have to pay to have personal
to go to
service.
the
Well, if you let's say you want to go deposit a check
Right.
before they come with the 3,000 thing, if you went to the teller, they would have charged you, and it all depends on what type of account you have.
Okay.
There's an account that's for, I think they call it electronic account, where you only strictly deal with electronic stuff. I have an electronic because I never used to usually go in the bank.
Okay.
I always either
You
swipe my
computer
card
savvy.
or
You
use
computer
my,
savvy. Yeah.
So I never used to really stand up.
But
in
you
the
know,
line.
you're not the majority.
Well, I don't know, maybe,
And it still-
maybe,
it
no,
still
no.
have some people who
Don't
know,
have debit cards.
don't have even a
But maybe,
cell phone.
but maybe Scotia Bank look at all the accounts
Yeah.
and they notice that majority of the customers fall under the electronic, the electronic account part. So they just say, okay, let's move towards
Okay, we
Make it a
understand that
nice
part of it.
charter.
What we have trouble with is the call center being someplace else.
Well,
No, but he's raising another important issue, Generation Y, right? This is the this is the new
It's
people.
It's a different,
okay?
yeah.
And we have a constitution that speaks about discrimination. You're not supposed to discriminate. If you make it impossible for me to do something, that's a form of discrimination.
I guess so.
But
Okay.
who is policing who when it comes to constitutional issues? How many constitutional issues have we had before the court?
Well, for the banks to receive a license, there is a commissioner. Perhaps that is an issue that the commissioner of banking
They
should.
got asked if they're going to take up that issue.
But I want to ask you, since you raised the question about the commission, I want to ask you, how many cases were brought before the commission, or how many?
I don't know.
You ever heard of one?
Well,
I have not heard
This
of
is
one.
one that should be brought to the commission.
I have not heard of one. But then again, they could have things that I don't know about because we don't have freedom of information.
Exactly.
But again, if we had appropriate legislation for consumer affairs,
Yeah.
that would be something that could be handled in that
Well,
situation.
I would say that I think that the way banking is conducted in the Virgin Islands right now, if you had another entity that came on board and was dedicated to providing customer service and providing the service that we are talking about here on the show tonight, they will get many customers. They'll make
Okay.
money
All right, Richard.
because they can do the things that Mr. George is talking about and more. You can provide electronic services, and you can also provide. I used to go to a bank where they would sit you down in the front of the bank at a desk with a person, and this is in a big city. If they could do that in a big city, we could do that in a small island.
Maybe it's economies of scale.
Well, the scales I telling you about is so much bigger that it would.
Then they
be-
can afford to do it,
No, I saying in a small economy, you can't afford not to do it.
not to do it.
Okay.
Okay.
But anyways, let's press on. We know we have a couple of things coming up. We have the
Poker
poker
run.
run coming up. That's going to be
Tomorrow.
and we know that it's done in conjunction with the U.S. holiday for the Veterans Veterans Day,
Memorial Day.
Memorial Day. So we know that we will get some visitors to the territory, and
Welcome.
and we more than welcome them, and it also would boost the economy a bit because people in Poker Run do a lot of other things other than sail up and down. They go to the various restaurants and they stay in the hotels and they use up a lot of fuel and water and a number of other things.
But Richard, you're familiar with CATS, Kids at
Yes,
the Sea.
I'm familiar. Yes. Mhm.
And you're also familiar with the fact that we teach
Yeah, you're sitting
safety.
between two past directors of CATS. So, yeah,
And
so
it
safety is a very important issue on the
concerns
water.
me when I see people in boats traveling at very high speeds
Yes.
without any personal safety devices, which are now really modern and spiffy,
Yeah.
consuming alcohol and having a good time. And I think it's prudent that persons participating should put on their life vest because they save lives. And yes, you can have your fun, folks, but then if you're not careful at the end of the day, you will leave a lot of people crying and having to collect money to bury you or take care of you. So please, when you go out there tomorrow in your boats traveling at high speeds, please use your PFDs. And I'm sure the people at the Marine Safety Division will agree with us that it is the time when you don't allow alcohol and seawater to mix.
Well, I have a strong feeling that they're going to be out there in numbers, and I'm referring to enforcement. I think they're going to be out there in numbers, and that's a good thing because when they're out there, I feel safer. Okay. And I'm pretty sure the people who are out there, they feel safer as well when they're out there. And I think
Not even on the water alone, you know. Once you got into an event and you got a lot of police presence or law enforcement, you should feel safer.
Yeah. And I think it's a good activity. It brings revenue to the territory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I don't have a problem with the activity.
And-
what I have the problem with is young men and women, on boats traveling at 30, 40 knots. They're not holding on to anything, no PFDs, with beers in their hands. You're inviting
A disaster or accident.
an accident.
Yeah.
And I think it's most important that we make our point that safety is critical. Put on your PFD. Whoever is running the boat should stay sober.
Yeah.
Make sure you know the rules of the road.
And be responsible. Yeah. We have a text that came in. Let's see. So thanks for your constructive concerns about the job. In my view, there are some employers who are slaves,
So
slave drivers, treating workers like the lawmakers and labor need to let them know and bring relief to hurting people in their workplaces in BVI. Well, thanks. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, as you usually understand, the sponsors that make this show possible are asking us to take a break. So we're going to take a short break and we're going to be right back with you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're right back with you. We're here with the Speak Your Mind show. We're hoping to dialogue with the people from Anegada to Josh Van Dyke and all the other islands in between. And we've been having a wonderful time here, been talking about a number of issues. And we're now down to taking a look at the new developments with the airport and the sewer system. We made mention before that the two sewer plants are up and ready to function. The one at Buds Point is completed and the one at Paraquita Bay is completed. And we saw in the news that the details are being worked out of how to complete the lines that would connect those plants and have them fully functional.
The one at Bud Point is working.
The one in Bud Point is working, yes, that's correct. And the one in Paraquita Bay is yet to have one connection at this point. And we're watching the developments. I understand that from the news article that I read, it seems that the contractors are concerned about the method that the government may be choosing, whether or not to go with the
Open trench.
the open trench or the horizontal directional drilling, which is something that I think personally might be more user friendly, considering that the route that we are talking about is the main route to the airport.
That was my main. That's the main concern I have with it. I understand people want to make money, you want to get a job, but that's you. What about all of us who have to use the same road to get to our job?
Yes.
You can send everybody through the
hills.
ridge.
Oh, miss.
When we going reach work?
Yeah, you have to
You
leave.
can't. To me, you can't take up from the police station, take the whole road to Paraquita Bay.
No, we're down to.
That's where we going. That's where we got to go.
Oh, yeah.
From the police. Because
From
I
the
remember
police station, yes.
the pumping station going go right there, either by where the post office is in that area. And then
But
you
I
got
think
to go
they
all
have
the way up.
lines as far down as Fatah's
Yeah.
Bay, you know.
Yeah, we have lines
but
there.
yeah.
So they just need to continue to go down to Paraquita Bay.
But remember they saying they got to put in a pumping station too?
Yeah, they could put in a pumping station anyway. That is a collection point, and then it will be forced
Yeah,
from
but,
there.
But I mean,
It'll be
still,
forced.
though, you dig up the whole road again, man.
Yeah, well, that's something for them to think. But I think along the line with the same issue we were talking about before with the call center, you know, the public or the consumer protection or the consumer input into this whole thing, it should be a vital part. How is the consumer going to be affected by this, and will it be to the advantage or the disadvantage? What can be done to mitigate if it has some negative effects on the consumer? These are the kind of issues I think we should be speaking about at this point before anything is actually done on the ground.
And if savings are generated in using new technology,
Yes,
then those savings can be applied to another project.
to another project. I fully agree.
Therefore, the same people will have two projects as against one.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. It's
Money could go on another project. You could get a contract on another project.
We have a text that came in and she says, what is going on with these statutory bodies that can't seem to handle their finances? Someone needs to be held accountable. That's a good comment. My personal position on it is that the statutory boards, according to the legislation that they have, should not be running the day-to-day operations of various statutory bodies. I think they're advisory, and they're also they don't have an administrative role to play, as far as I know. That is why we have managers and assistant managers and accountants and all these other positions. Now it seems like it's a habit or a custom for these boards to do the day-to-day operations, and I think they've missed the calling.
Maybe that's why there is confusion.
Yeah, just let me see what text that's coming in. Let's see. It says, "Good night, gentlemen. I have concern with the filling of the seaside land just on the lower end of Mr. McLean, just after Tonic Bar. When we experience heavy rain, that area would flood. Why is this area being filled?" I think that's probably a question for conservation and conservation department. I think all of those developments are required to be submitted to conservation. And I think there's a general policy that if you're filling an area that is adjacent to the high water mark, you must make it higher than the high water mark to protect the rise in the sea level that would result in
But what about the water that gets on the road?
I think there's also a part that speaks to the drainage. If you notice, most of the reclaimed areas
Yes.
are also required to put in adequate drainage. So,
okay.
so I think that would probably become an attention to the conservation. My colleagues there in conservation, I'm sure they'll listen to the show. They'll listen to the Speak Your Mind show, and they'll take that up as an issue.
Well, the caller was saying, but statutory board, you gotta be specific to me.
Well,
Which one
well,
can't handle their finances? The only one I know in the news is Health Services Authority, but
no, man, all of them have been in the news over time.
not all of them.
Well,
we don't be in the news. We don't be in the news.
Well, it is what it is, I guess. You know, but the point I was making though is that I think, you know, administrative functions, you know, the various things that have to do with the day-to-day running should be handled by the various bodies, I think. And I think the policy, and those other more
Long-term issues.
long-term issues which have to do with the longevity of the organization. We have to
should be handled by the board.
but should be handled
projects.
exclusively by the board.
Yeah.
And
That's where policies
that's
and
where
projects.
policy. And the board, to me, the board has a duty and a responsibility to interact with the community and let the community know what policies are being changed and enforced,
how they affect them.
and how they affect the general community.
Okay.
And I think that might be one thing. We have one more text I see that came in here. It says, hotels closing, yet some people have 2 jobs. Government need do something. Well, I don't know how much the government could do in that case. If you have more than one job, it might be a matter of trying to make ends meet. I am one of,
And you probably would have had those 2 jobs before.
and not only that, but it's touching on the whole issue of the minimum wage and why we are refusing to address the minimum wage issue. We all know that right next door in St. Thomas, they passed the minimum wage bill. It not only speaks to the minimum wage, but it speaks to the future of when it would be changed again. Yeah. In other words, it shows continuity of the discussion of, I wouldn't even call it a minimum wage, I say a livable wage.
Yeah.
Because it speaks to the fact that some people cannot provide basic services for their families at $4 an hour, and we need to address this thing, and as I speak about in an economic sense, we need to start talking to the community about how people are surviving in our economy. The cost to do business, the taxes that we have to pay, the goods and services that we pay for. These are all real issues that we need to address in our community. And I think sooner or later we should have a show probably just dedicated
to those issues.
To all those economic issues.
Because even, it's a lot of, cost of living is really high in the BVI.
It is.
Food.
Mm-hmm.
You got children to deal with.
Yeah.
But the biggest expense is food.
Yeah.
Okay, it's almost time for us to wrap up, Richard.
Wrap up on the show. Yeah, well, we had a wonderful show, gentlemen. I think we started out talking about call centers and the type of service that we're receiving from various organizations, and the fact that consumer protection and consumer affairs is so important that companies need to dedicate a little bit more of their time and their efforts and their money to make sure that the consumer is well taken care of and well protected. We talked about the upcoming hurricane season. We mentioned the airport project. We didn't dwell too much into that. We talked about the Poker Run. We touched on safety. The safety issue is about 20-fold when we get a chance to really talk about. But we were talking specifically about safety at the sea, and the fact that at the Poker Run, it would be good that all of our participants exercise due care and safety while they're out there having fun. Freedom of information, we touch on it barely because it's so important. I know I have some colleagues in other parts of the Caribbean who are singing calypsos about it and all, because it is so important that we get this legislation in place to protect the media. I didn't even get a chance to talk about our media responsibilities and the fact that we were almost at a meeting to hear what the media will be allowed or not allowed. We're going to touch on that on another topic. We talked a little bit about the digital divide, and we touched on it when it comes to banking and the fact that some people may not have access as they should have, and whether or not it touches on their constitutional right. Ladies and gentlemen, all in all, we had a wonderful show. I'm going to ask my colleagues now to wrap up a little bit of what we had, and any last words you want to leave with the viewers before we leave.
Well, Richard, I think you've summed it up nicely for us tonight, and there are other topics that we should be considering, and hopefully next week we will be able to tell you more about the NHI and how it works, and when we will have Mr. Barry and his people from the NHI talking to the country.
Great. All right, ahead, George.
Good night, everyone. It was a good show. If you could buy a good paper to read this week is the Beacon paper. You have a lot of good information and some good, investigative journalism in that paper this week. We didn't get a touch to talk about some of the topics in it, but you go yourself and buy the paper for the Thursday the 26th. You should still have some in some stores now. Go and read that paper and be aware of what's going on in your country. You have to be aware of what's going on in your country, so nobody can put nothing over your. But I say no hole over your eye.
Get rid of the rumors.
Yeah, give it a, just
Give it a rumors.
be
First-hand information.
informed, yeah.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, at this time I usually say God bless these Virgin Islands and the people that live in them, and we'll see you again next week.